The three councils around Waverley decided many moons ago that they were going to make an impact on the environment despite what anybody else said. Why? Because it just makes good sense. And we're lucky that the man that coordinates that, runs that, is here today, and he's probably going to give us the heads up on just one part of it. We're not going to get him to talk about double glazing and reflective tints on the windows, and no doubt I've looked at the heat map and it looks like those people in Bondi are causing most of the emissions, just so you know. But did you want to use the stage?
Thanks for that introduction. The charging's cheap, but the house prices are expensive, so it's a bit of a trade-off over in the Eastern Suburbs. Thanks everyone for having me come and speak to you. I'm just going to run through what we've done as part of our Enabling the Uptake of EV project and get your feedback at the end. So the driver for our program is around carbon emissions. So I don't know if many of you know, we love EVs in the Eastern Suburbs, but where I sit and where a lot of the councils you guys all come from, they've got a real mandate to reduce emissions, and it's something that we're trying to do at all levels of government. So we did a low carbon future plan, and one of the exercises was we mapped the emissions of our Eastern Suburbs community. So we looked at all the different suburbs and we looked at where emissions were high and low and tried to actually build a bit of a model of why. And one of the key explainer variables was car use. It really did, when you look at these two images, you can really see there's a pretty strong correlation. So the northern parts of the Eastern Suburbs and then the southern parts, and that's really around access to public transport, and car use per person in those areas is pretty high. Most people have 2 cars, if not even more. So we looked at our emissions, and as part of doing this analysis, we worked out that 22% of our emissions was coming from transport. As the electricity grid gets greener and greener with more renewables, transport becomes something that we need to focus on increasingly more. It's it's not a low-hanging fruit, it's a more difficult piece of the pie, but it's going to be a more lasting change. So the first thing we did is we did a survey of community, and we got 406 respondents, and we asked them, would you consider buying an EV if there were more public charging stations? And 78% of people said yes, they'd consider buying an EV. So we had some really good interest from our community. And then we asked them about what are the barriers, why hadn't they bought an EV, and what are the top barriers. And this was really telling. Number one was lack of availability of charging stations, price and range. They're all issues, and they were number 2 and 3, and they all figured pretty highly. But there was nothing technological or anything to do with safety or scared of innovation. They all figured really low down. And as council, we can do something about charging station availability, but there's nothing we can really do about price and limited range. So we really saw our intervention in this puzzle around charging. And we see it as a bit of a chicken and egg scenario, you know. So if you can get more charging on board, you get more model availability, that brings the price down. As more models come out, there's more investment in the technology, the range improves, the price comes down, more people put in EV charging. So really we're trying to target charging stations as a breaker in this cycle. And council wants to invest to break this cycle and to get more EVs on the road. So we built a network of 8 public EV charging stations around the Eastern Suburbs. And that's sort of what they look like. This is the one down in Bondi Beach. I'll show you a few more photos, but they've got a great little vinyl wrap. They've got 2 ports. They're a Schneider EV Link 2-port unit, and I'll go through some of the specifications in a few slides. But you can see we've got pretty good coverage of the whole Eastern Suburbs. We picked destination hotspots. So these are places where people want to spend a bit of time. They're going to want to spend 1 to 2 hours. They're shopping centres, beaches. People are going to be pretty happy charging there at an AC rate of 22 kilowatts, up to 22 kilowatts. So here's our launch. This is our one down in Bondi Beach, which I just showed you. We had, it was a rainy day in Sydney. I think the best thing about this photo and the day was everyone was got to see how there's no issues operating an EV 3-phase power in the rain, because it was absolutely pissing down. And if we had Osher Gunsberg, who's the host of The Bachelor, who's actually a mad EV enthusiast, I'm sure he's been here. He's owned about 4 or 5 Nissan Leafs, and he was down there demonstrating how easy it is to use an EV, and doing it very, very well in the rain. We've got one down in Coogee Beach, one block away from the beach, one in Randwick, near the Royal Randwick Shopping Centre. So really, once again, really convenient, good parking spots. The idea is we give you a good parking spot, and that's the bribe for coming down and buying or using an EV or charging your car. So we want to give you a good spot to encourage more people to say, hey, why don't I get that Rockstar car park in the future down on the beach, and I can come down and with my EV and not have to drive around looking for a parking spot for half an hour. We've got one in Cura Place in Double Bay, which is a wall unit. So you can see here how slim they can be, and low profile. And you can see a good example of our decals there. And then we've put, these are ones a bit further south of in our LGAs. One at Des Renford Leisure Centre in Maroubra, which is great. It's probably our newest one. And then we've put one in Little Bay at the Prince Henry Centre, and then at Randwick Community Centre, which is powered by solar and a wind turbine partially in the background. So a few people on the Twitter were pretty excited about that one because you're getting a fair bit of the power from renewables when the building is in operation. One thing that was amazing was, contrary to Scott Morrison's comment that EVs are going to ruin the weekend and you can't pull a ute in it, we found that putting this EV project out there got an amazing response from mainstream media. It was on the 6 o'clock news on Channel 9, the 6 o'clock news on Channel 7. It was in the Driven, we're on radio. The response was overwhelmingly positive, and it gave us a lot of great kudos for what we did, but also it helped us, it made our council want to do more. What we've installed is aimed at the destination charging market. So these are most people who own an EV now have charging at home. Most people in the future are going to have charging at home or in their workplace. But this middle piece of the pyramid is for people who aren't doing long journeys but want top-up charging. They want confidence that they're going to be able to charge whenever they go out to their shops to do their local grocery shopping or go to a destination. The AC charge at 22 kilowatts can add 150 kilometres of range per hour, so it's a good clip. They obviously, being a socket charger, they're universally accessible. In terms of making people pay, we really pondered about, do we make them free or do we make people pay? And in the end, we made it free for the first couple of months, and then we've made people pay because we don't need to make people pay, but we want to create a market and a revenue source for other companies to come in behind us and to be able to do the same thing. And we want people to be able to use the idea of paying. So we worked out that you can get an exemption by from charging people for electricity, and so we ended up charging based on their usage, which is the fairest way of doing it. So we charge 25 cents in the peak, 15 cents off peak, and 10 cents, 15 cents shoulder and 10 cents off peak. So the philosophy behind that is it's cheaper than you pay at home, but it's a little bit more expensive than what we pay as council, and we thought that was pretty much spot on. Once again, they're powered by 100% renewable energy. And we really, to be honest, we had to actually wait for this signage to come out from RMS, because up until about 8 months ago, they had no signage for EVs. So it was illegal to put these up on the street because they couldn't be enforced. We use the ChargeFox network, which gives us, this is pretty interesting stuff for us as councils and for our management. We get to see who's charged, where they've come from, how much they've charged, which ports are in operation, numbers of charging sessions, and we get to just monitor this as time progresses. And we have noticed a big uptick just in the last month with more people going out to these beach destinations. So we're getting around one charge per station every 3 days is about the average. So each charge station gets around 2 to 3 charging sessions a week. Would want that to be higher, but it's definitely on the increase. And will increase more with more Teslas and Leafs and Konas on the market. So in summary, I guess it took a while for us to work out how to do this. the business case for EV charging as a council isn't great. We didn't know, are we going to be able to recoup our money? How much is it going to cost? Are people going to use them? It ended up costing us around $15,000 to $18,000 per charging station to buy the unit, to do all the electrical work, to install it, to do the signage and the decals, which we think is pretty good for a piece of infrastructure. Identifying sites was the thing that was the hardest because there's so many different stakeholders in the room, and we wanted prominent but not premium sites. So sites that people would really go out of their way to go for, but not where parking was so exclusive that shops were going to complain, or it was so limited that we were really going to take away a parking spot from a really high demand area. We had to do a lot of engagement, but thankfully we had a lot of great collaboration initially with the Department of Industry in New South Wales, but that sort of died off. But we helped with a master's student from the University of Sydney, Kaylin, who helped inform us and do some literature review from overseas, the EV Council, NRMA, Energy Lab. We really learned from the leaders in this space, which are Adelaide City Council and Moreland Council, and I guess we're able to benefit from their expertise. The rewards, I don't need to preach the converted, but the rewards are numerous when it comes to EV charging. Less noise, less pollution, confidence for people to go out and buy an EV, knowing that they're going to be supported by council with off-street parking. We have seen tourism dollars, so we do get people from the Hunter and the Blue Mountains coming out. We think, why not help people with petrol going up and constantly spiking? Instead of filling up for $80, $90, why not come down and fill up your car for $15, $20? And what we're really after is this idea of market transformation. Council can be a leader, it can establish a new market, it can get out, and the market can take over. And all of a sudden, we're all the better for it. So just as a bit more of a summary about what else our project involves, we have electric vehicle charging in apartments is a big area we've tried to help out with giving advice to residents on how to configure their apartment. And there's a webinar that's up online, which we hosted with a number of other councils to try and demystify some of these ideas and tell people that, listen, you don't have to spend $200,000 straight away upgrading your apartment block. You can do it in stages. So jump online and have a look at that. We've still got a couple of installations to go. We obviously working to transition our fleets and with our car share operators. We think fleets is really important because it's going to put second-hand vehicles into the market for other people to buy. We want to use our expertise to get more charging in clubs and shopping centres. Just this week we installed an EV charger at a Wilson's car park in Randwick, the spot where the Randwick Ritz cinema is, and a few other shopping centres. We're giving that away, some of our expertise and IP, and helping them do that. And then finally, we want to pull all of our lessons learned and this data that we're capturing into a bit of a strategy on EV charging for the Eastern Suburbs, and hopefully do lots more EV charging in the future. So thank you very much, guys. Hey. Yeah, you can answer questions.